So yeah, this is Calcat the Calcatster, and this is a review of Dune Part Two. I'm assuming there are three of them because this seems like a darker middle chapter. Yeah. And really, the first book is the only book you really want to do in that series anyway, because it's really weird with Children of Dune, and Dune Messiah is insane. It's goofy. His descendant, his son, is a cloned half worm, half man. Because clearly Frank Herbert was high as shit when he wrote it. He was just high as balls, or something. I don't know. Or the obvious premise and parallels of the other one, and of course the influence of the one from years ago, the David Lynch one from the 80s. So that's well in there, and you got what appears to be Christopher Walken and John Batista and a bunch of other people on this one. Yeah, so we have Dune 2 takes some liberties with the story and the script and everything, and makes everything with the War and the Emperor minor spoilers. But if you know the story, you'll recognize it as similar to Star Wars and numerous others. Even though Star Wars popularized the ideas Star Wars came out in 1977, so Lucas was reading Dune, he even referenced Dune, the spice mines in Dune and in Star Wars. So he read it and he just put it in there. Because at the time it was unfilmable. Now it is filmable because we have CG and stuff. You can film it. So somebody did. Denis Vellenue. Denis Vellenue, I think. It's a French name. Oh, yes. French and something else. And we have Zendaya as a sort of Arabic character, even though she is maybe a little bit. So you're your basic premise of Dune Part 2, similar to Part 1, you've got this denounced, defeated family, the Atreides. They've been all killed by the Emperor's evil plot behind the scenes. Sounds a little like Star Wars. But that's because Frank Herbert thought of it first. Back in the 60s when Dune was written. So you have Dune was written a little bit before Star Trek was. Anyways, so yeah, we have this guy on the planet. Paul Atreides goes missing into the Fremen woods. The Fremen are the Sand People, basically. They're also various other Arabic-like characters, basically, out there. Of course, Frank Herbert being from Oregon, in the desert of Oregon, which is not really a desert, not like the Mojave, and certainly not the Sahara. But he tried. So in the desert planet Arrakis, and Alpha Giedi is the bad guy. Alpha Giedi Prime is the planet. I'm sure there's been a lot of people, including Quinn's Ideas and others, that have gone in more detail about Dune. I don't have to do that here. Also, where the planets are and all that. Arrakis is actually a real star, but it's actually a binary. But yeah, a number of these other things. Or Giedi is also one of the Giedis. Not sure which. Anyway, the Black Star of Giedi Prime. Actually, probably be a very bright star of Giedi Prime. It depends on which Giedi it is. Just like there's many Denims. Denim is part of a horse. Centaurus, there's a lot of Rigels. Rigel is part of a horse as well. So yeah, all these Arabic names are space stuff. Part of something, part of a horse, part of something. Or some creature or something, mythical creature. Then they got the Greek mixed in with their pantheon, so you have him off with the Freeman, and they're attacking the spice collection vehicles and doing the whole Ferngully thing. Ferngully was later. They were copying Dune. Okay, this movie is now copying that. But yes, it's clearly nowadays it's a metaphor for the whole Arab Spring thing. But I don't think at the time Herbert was thinking of that. I think he was just, ooh, wouldn't it be cool to like dude, it would be cool to have like desert free warriors and stuff, and colonization being bad and stuff. And yeah, and he'll do that. He'll do like the Pocahontas the myth of Pocahontas thing with the guy going out to be Pocahontas. Same kind of idea there too. He goes native. You might think it's like Dances with Wolves, but Dances with Wolves was copying Dune. Yes, not Pocahontas. And then the Pocahontas, the Disney one, they were copying Dune. Okay, and this movie comes later than that. So, because that didn't actually happen. Pocahontas did not fall in love with John Smith. That did not happen. That's another tangent. They go to this planet thing in Lucas style compared to Lucas. This is not like Star Trek. It's more like George Lucas. And they go to this the planet Dune, and they tease his character, the Baron, the guy's down there, trying to make sure the spice thing doesn't get attacked. It keeps getting attacked, so in traditional manga fashion, he keeps beating up his generals and killing them because they keep losing to the Fremen, who are trying to stop the colonial spice trade thing. Spice. He's also thrown in like spices. The Silk Road and the spice trade is something else from earlier colonial times. So he's kind of like thrown that in there too in a metaphor. But also the spice is clearly a drug, which heightens your awareness and makes you prescient. Apparently, yeah, it makes your eyes blue and stuff. It's obviously Frank Herbert was like, dude, I found some magic mushrooms in Bend, man. Yeah, it's obviously what he was on. It's magic mushrooms. Yeah, I'm sure his only connection to that kind of thing back then was magic mushrooms, and possibly other stuff. The flower of the lotus of pleasure. No, yeah. The Dune books and the movies they have this thing about the weapons, right? So you have to have knives and stuff. This story has apparently in part 2, they saw some of the Calicat stuff and some other comments from other people that were much more interesting than mine, and said like, well, why don't they have conventional weapons? Because that would make sense. The shields aren't going to stop a bullet; they'll just go right through. So they start having conventional weapons in the story, which probably throws it off a little bit. Because why would the the Harkonnens have like actual weapons and stuff? Of course, the Fremen steal them, and then they have weapons. Everybody's got weapons. So in the reverse of the colonial thing, like the reverse of the colonial thing and the other stuff. Yeah, so there's all this stuff going on, and it's like, well, yeah. So there's stuff that isn't like in the book. In the book, this second half of the movie is spread out over another 2 or 3 years, and Lady Jessica's daughter is born, and she's already walking around years later. So the David Lynch one actually did that and jumped ahead 2 years in the middle of it. This one isn't 2 years later. They just condensed everything, which I'm sure the Dune book fans will be mad about. Although I can understand why they would do it in a modern movie, just because they kind of have to, to keep their attention. And nowadays, the millennials can't pay attention for more than a few seconds. They really have to get their attention and keep it going. But yeah, so you have there's a lot of thinking moments out there too that are actually long and drawn out, where they could get their attention. So they're vis-a-vis, but there's some action here and there. You have the evil Baron guy, the evil ruler guy. You have like barons and dukes and things, and leadership and aristocracy in the stories, or like the kings of old and stuff. And they're all like this. They're feudal, but they have power and like ships and stuff and flying around. And you have the evil Emperor's underling guy, who is I think that's the guy that played the Kingpin in the Daredevil. I think that's who that is, and the other ones. Good casting. I think that's who that is. And he's playing the evil Baron guy in the books. He's a randy pervert. And then this version, they play the bad guy as a. They imply it. They don't actually show it. They like strings and imply it. So they got some dead twink dudes lying around in his castle, or this little room thing, which is just kind of funny. But it's messed up. But at least they didn't do what they did in the book. The book is graphic about that part. He's like a weirdo, pedo weirdo guy. But yeah, and then they assign somebody to replace Bautista's character. This sort of looks like he's somebody familiar. I know. I'm not even going to bother to look it up because this is not really not an official reviewer anyway. I just do movie reviews sometimes. Movies I've seen. He looks like Jared Leto. Maybe it is. And he goes and he's a vampire. I guess the people on Alpha Gaeta Prime are vampires, or vampire-like, and they eat people. And their black sun. They keep saying the black sun, even though they clearly have a star, but it makes everything black and white. The only way that would work is if it was a red star, actually. But I don't think it is. I don't think it's supposed to be. Yeah. I think they might have added that, and it would be dark on the planet. It wouldn't be light. They would have more. Yeah, in order for them to have less ultraviolet light, UV waves. Yeah, so if it was a red star, their skin would be darker because it would have to let in more light. Whereas this star they're brighter and whiter, letting in less light. So it's got to be a blue sun, possibly, where it's bright but not as much UV rays, or a F-type star or something. So it's like the UV rays are different, so it just makes their skin bleached out, like it's like a high sun polar star or something. So it bleaches out their skin, or it has nothing to do with their skin color. Maybe they're just vampires on the planet. And yes, you can say, well, that's like in the Orville with those vampire people. It's like, Seth MacFarlane was a Dune fan. He read it. It's the same guys. Also, they're the Krill. It's the same guys in Marvel as well. Marvel also thought of that, so they also copied Dune 2 as well, including a bald hero guy and stuff, and a bald bad guy, and the hero swashbuckler guy with hair. It's like, yeah, the Marvel and DC people were also fans of Dune. So yeah, that's where they're getting it from. So the Kingpin is basically the Bad Emperor guy from Dune to begin with, and also other people. I think they modeled the Kingpin though after more DC, more after not DC Marvel. There's a DC version of him, Falcone. They modified Falcone in DC after Marlon Brando's character in The Godfather. Yeah, so that's where they're getting it from. Same, another different movie. So we have the Fremen training Paul Atreides to be the Muad'Dib. He's a reluctant hero. He's an antihero, and he's not Luke Skywalker. Everybody is he like Luke Skywalker and everything? No, he's more like Anakin than Luke Skywalker. So yeah, so he's more like Anakin than Luke Skywalker. No, that thing in the background stopped. Because he's a reluctant Messiah, hero, bad guy. He's more like Anakin, yeah, and of course Lucas was, same thing. And then later on we have Kylo Ren as a descendant, being the messed up third character of that, and that makes perfect sense if the Lucas people, or even the Disney Lucas people, are copying Dune. But yes, they were there first out of the gate, so yeah. But yeah, then there was the Lynch one. So elements of it are in all these other movies. Not so much Lord of the Rings, though, oddly enough. So we got these the rather obvious setup of the chemistry between Zendaya and the main guy. It's obvious. Comments in the theater to that effect. They were trying really hard, and they kept doing these extreme close-ups, and a lot of this far to the left and far to the right stuff. all through the movie. I guess that's the current technique. I find extreme close-ups kind of annoying because you don't want to see the pores on their skin, and you don't need to be that close. You don't need to be so close that like their top of their head's cut off. That just looks sloppy, I think. Yeah, just don't cut the top of their head off. Arab Spring. The girl is like called the Spring or something. I think it's in the book. Yeah, so that's fine. But it's like yeah, they're trying not to insult actual people of Arabic descent, which is kind of funny. So they go through the whole movie trying to avoid that. They have the weird scene where they get the blue poison spice thing from the worm, feed it to the Lady Jessica, and they didn't know she was pregnant. And it goes to the baby. That's in the book, and it makes the baby's prescience awaken or whatever. Yeah. So also on the other planet on Alpha Gaity, they have to send the new guy to replace Bautista's Baron character who's doing a bad job. So vampire guy goes down there to replace him. They keep saying he's psychotic over and over again. That this guy, he fights in an arena and he goes to the planet, and that is a character in the Dune books. But they condensed everything because they had to fill like 3 hours. That's pretty long, and they had to fill it up, so they had to kind of rush through that character's motivations. So in some ways it seems kind of it's rushed because we don't know what his, other than he's, I guess, the cousin of the Baron guy. Like, apparently the Lady Jessica is actually a Harkonnen, turns out, to a bastard child of the Harkonnen, so he wasn't even related to the other ones. Although that's not that much of a surprise because they're doing the fiefdom thing, and she's the wife of, yeah, so she's the Reverend Mother trained by the Bene Gesserit, clearly Jesuit. That's what they're called in Dune. Yes, he's clearly thinking space Jesuits, like in some books, like Three Body Problem as well. But yes, space Jesuits. So you have and that other one, the Dark Forest one. But yeah, you have also that person was a fan of Dune. So you have this also James Blish, Case of Conscience. He was a fan of Dune. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, with the lizard guys on the planet, there are no aliens in Dune. It's set in 10,000 years in the future, and it's like the human race is spread all over the galaxy, like a galactic empire. Yeah, a galactic empire. Also, Asimov thought of that 10 years before. So it's Asimov, and then Frank Herbert, and then George Lucas decades later. Yeah. Way back, the Galactic Kingdom thing, Fiefdom Empire thing, you could say. The 40s, and J.R.R. Tolkien, and C.S. Lewis. You could go back in the lineage all the way back to the Lord of the Rings. That's where it came from. Yeah. But what about George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones? It was like, Game of Thrones is basically the 100 Years' War. It's the War of the Roses. Told as a yeah. They keep messing it up and doing prequels, but it's the War of the Roses. And there's an excellent Shakespeare book about that. Go look that up. But yeah, not the movie The War of the Roses, the actual War of the Roses. These two different warring English clans are fighting over each other in the 1600s or something. 1500s. But yeah, 100 years before Shakespeare. So yeah, so we got this stuff going on. Paul Atreides is a reluctant messiah, but he has to unite the southern kingdom. They're in the north. They got to unite the southern kingdom so that they'll go help them fight the Baron and his people, knock out the whole thing. He doesn't want to because he thinks that billions will die. There's prophecy thing. But he stays behind anyway, and he takes the spice drink, and he almost dies, and they have to revive him with her tears from the. So yeah, it's in the book. But all that was like later in the books. The kid was already there. In the books, it's different. It's like years later. They condensed this story into what seems like weeks or months or something. when it's supposed to be years. Of course, you can't do that in a movie where you're trying to get through 3 parts. So they had condensed it. So yeah, there's some spoilers there. But if you've seen Dune and if you've seen Star Wars, you know where it's going. So I was like, yeah, if you see that, okay, they're gonna somehow get the Emperor stuff. In this version, unlike the David Lynch movie where they actually go to the Baron's planet, this one they go to the they send him out after the Baron and the King and the Emperor are actually dumb enough to go to the planet Dune and land their mothership there. And I wasn't the only one in the audience. I was like, why would he do that? It was like he's the Emperor of the galaxy. Why would he be dumb enough to go and land on the planet when he knows there's an insurrection down there? Like, why would he do that? That's Christopher Walken as the Emperor. So he probably figured, maybe I will carouse some, bamboozle them, and they'll follow me. And then he offers to take he wants the Emperor brings his daughter along so that he can hang out with them, so that he can take the daughter as part of the war trophies or whatever, which kings did back then, and in the ancient times they would do that. A feudal lord would take their character. This is barbaric. And that's what pisses off the girlfriend who takes off to go riding a sandworm. And we have middle chapter. Yeah, very, very brief middle chapter there. And mostly mentioning other stuff that it seems similar to. But that's just because everyone's going to ask. So yeah, does Dune 2 work? It does. It was epic. It was fun. Despite all that, they find atomics too. Harkonnen's buried atomics on Arrakis in plain sight. Yeah, there's a lot of and then they show the holy water spring thing from the other one, and all that. They don't mention the word jihad. They say holy war because they correctly and accurately said in the story they had people who were Arabic. The story. And they're all, that's not what that means. You Americans think, we Americans think that's what that means. Holy war, but it doesn't really. And maybe the fanatical, other guys, maybe they think that's what it means. But actually, it's an inner struggle. So the movie actually correcting that, saying that's not what it is, that's kind of interesting. They're basically saying, no, it's a holy war. We're going to call it a holy war as opposed to an inner one. And there's kind of this thing going on between the two. And the idea is that the Paul Atreides character, the desert mouse guy, is the mouse that roared is also referenced in there too. The Mouse That Roared book. It's a famous book where this little country invades America and takes over because everybody freaks out. And that's Muad'Dib. That's what it is. So yes. So yeah. There's and his transition, his decision to stay behind, and all that is rushed in the movie because they had to get to the end of 3 hours and put everything in there and put all the pieces of the chessboard right there for him to go fight, including the psychotic guy who we really didn't know for more than 20 minutes, if that. Then we have a nice final boss fight with the bald bad guy vampire and the leader guy. Costumes are awesome. The things are awesome. The worms are a little weird. Even Mark's card said the worms are a little weird. They don't quite have it right. But in a book, the Frank Herbert ones were actually the earlier ones were actually cooler. They had like segmented heads that opened up. The 80s ones. These ones are more like giant sarlacc worms thing. No, I did not get the funny popcorn bucket. Didn't do that. So yeah, it was fine and epic and summer movie. But it's March, so it just turned March. So It's not a summer movie technically. It's a late spring, early spring movie. I don't know if it'd do better in the summer. Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll be a slow burn. Yeah, usually movies that come out the beginning of the year are completely ignored Oscar time. The first one had some Clara Awards for visual science fiction and all that stuff. The second one will get them again, I'm sure, in December. But yeah. And the Clara Awards are not official, so it's old stuff, so. But it should get some awards for the official ones, too. It's Oscar worthy. Some of the... Yeah, although some of the acting in it is a little stiff, but it's not it's not a miss though. It's a good movie. I'll give it yeah, it was epic and fine. A little long. Does it quite get 4 stars? Or yeah, let's for visuals and other stuff. It gives us 4 stars, so I give it a good rating. So, yeah, go see Dune. I'm sure other people who are better critics at analyzing it will go on about it better than mine here is doing. Yeah, I thought to just do that right now and get the review over with. Yeah, so there it is.